has endorsed him as the sole candidate of the APC. That is, if the gentleman from Edo State, I think, who bought his form, doesn't insist on going for a primary. Now, there were other places. Abuja was very busy with governors going for their screening, members of the National Assembly going for their screening as well. And then the states were busy with state houses of assembly members, aspirants, going for their screening after they bought their form. But Rivers was in focus because the very first day where all of the governors had coming to be screened by the screening committee of the APC, I think the Rivers State Governor, the Ebonyi State Governor, and the Kwara State Governor were not particularly present. But curiosity, given the way Rivers politics has played for a long time, the Rivers State Governor was not present. They asked the national chairman of the APC, the professor, and he did say, why are you just singling out the Rivers State Governor? There were other governors that were not present as well. Well, we can tell you that the governor of Rivers State had gone for that screening. We don't know what played out inside that particular room while they were being screened and all of that. So we don't know how it plays out. But I want to show you something on my slide. If my producer can get me some things that has to do with the Electoral Act, Section 87. If I can get it, if I don't get it, I'll move on to other things. So, yes, this is the section. So, you know, you've been hearing the word consensus. Consensus. Let's hold it as Section 87, subsection 1. So when you hear the word consensus, this is what consensus means in the Electoral Act, as far as the Electoral Act is concerned, so we can say in the law. Whatever is agreed, for instance, people are negotiating not for other people not to even buy the form because they want to run, so they are seeing how they can make others, you know, drop their ambition, maybe they promise them other things. That is consensus in English. This is consensus according to law. So a political party that adopts a consensus candidate shall secure the written consent. That's why it's written in red. Written consent, almost like an affidavit, of all cleared aspirants for the position, indicating their voluntary withdrawal from the race and their endorsement of the consensus candidate. So 3 things must happen. That consensus candidate must have in his hands a document showing written consent, first saying, I voluntarily withdraw after I bought the form and I've been screened by the screening committee and I'm qualified to contest in a primary. I am now voluntarily withdrawing from this race. And not just that, I'm endorsing the consensus candidate. That is how a consensus is secured. But in the next subsection 2, if this fails, we go to the next one, where a political party is unable to secure written consent of all cleared aspirants for the purpose of the consensus candidate, it shall revert to the choice of primaries for the nomination of candidates for the elected position. We'll go to the last part. Now, this last part is very funny. But I have a reason for bringing subsection 3. If you can go to subsection 3, this is subsection 2, guys. If we can go to subsection 3 of section 87, fantastic. Now, a special convention on nomination, Congress shall be held to ratify the choice of the consensus candidates at designated centers at the national, state, senatorial, federal, and state constituencies. The reason why they had to put this in the law, trust me, politicians can be very interesting. You may agree to a consensus and or a primary, and when they want to ratify, you may not know the venue. So this law says everybody has to be in the knowledge of that particular venue. Okay, so that's as far as the APC is concerned. So they are making progress. I think by Friday or so, we should be having the primaries of the APC, but I'll need to check out the date. But let's come back to the SDP. SDP has been more of, if you can call it, maybe a divided house, because Shehu Gabam is the one recognized by INEC. He is the one that is in the INEC portal, but they actually held their convention in Bauchi, where I think Professor Sadiq Gombe has been elected for that group to lead the SDP. And that group has also endorsed Mr. Adewale Adebayo, who was their presidential candidate, as their sole presidential candidate. Let's take a listen to what played out in their convention.
The presentation of our sole presidential candidate, Prince Adewale Adebayo, I therefore called on members of the Social Democratic Party from Plateau State to resoundingly vote for him as our candidate for the 2027 general elections.
By May 27, 2027, Tinubu is gone. But don't let us waste the subsidy of Tinubu being gone. The way Tinubu wasted the subsidy of petrol. Let us not waste our votes. It will be the greatest tragedy, and God forbid, that after Tinubu's terrible underperformance, misbehavior, malfeasance, corruption, that the next president will look like him. Let Tinubu not laugh at us and say, you have kicked me out now. See, the person who replaced me is even worse than me.
Oh, big words, big allegations there. The SPC will respond to him as well. But this is Gabam, the man who is on the INEC portal, also responding to what has been playing out in his party.
Delegates, short while ago, this inaugural convention.
Yeah, apologies for that mix-up. I thought we could get the reaction of Mr. Gabam, who had actually made his way to the office of the SDP in Abuja some days ago. We need to bring that up. But just to tell you that it looks like a lot of the parties are still having issues. But the NDC is the first conversation. I'm going to be having two distinguished senators joining me later on the show today. But let's talk about the NDC. They had their national convention yesterday. One of the biggest highlights of that convention is a decision they took, zoning the presidency to the south. And not just that, a single term. Let's take a listen.
Short while ago, this inaugural convention, in the national interest for which the NDC is established to foster people, we have taken a historic resolution. That is about zoning of the next presidential ticket of our party to the southern part of Nigeria. Today is a great day. Let us go home and start the work. The work starts today. The work in ensuring that we chase out all these people, all those who agreed that you can forge certificates, all those who agreed that doing the wrong thing is right. They are the people who want to chase out. This is the time we choose to rebuild Nigeria. A new Nigeria is. The leadership we shall set will therefore restore Nigeria's community and will guarantee that our citizens and home and diaspora will be treated with respect and dignity.
All right, so Robbie Kwankwaso, Peter Obi, Senator Seriake Dixon, who is the national leader of the NDC, Nigerian Democratic Congress. A lot of Congress in the names of the party. NDC, ADC, APC, maybe only PDP, but there's a D or C somewhere. But let's get to the conversation. My first guest is Senator Victor Umeh. He represents the people of Anambra Central. He's a member of the NDC. He was a former ABGA chairman. He moved from there to the Labour Party, to the ADC, and now to the NDC. Distinguished, I just had to chronicle your journey. It's been quick. This is one of the fastest defections I've seen in the history of Nigerian politics. But that's an aside. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jeffrey. You came short of describing me as a political nomad as well. Moving from here to here. So I'm a political nomad. But all this is happening for a reason. You know, like I said the other time, when you put smoke in the hole where the rabbit is residing, the rabbit will hit somewhere he has prepared for escape and run away. So when the place you are becomes choking, you have to find an exit route. So the movements are not on democracy. There are circumstances that have warranted such movements, and it's good for our democracy. Where you are no longer comfortable where you are, you have to shift.
Let's talk about that. I will come back to the movement in a moment, because you went one way, Senator Baribe went the other way. You went with Peter Obi to the NDC. Senator Baribe, I think, went to the Labour Party, but not now. Let's talk about what played out at that national convention yesterday, which is perhaps the most profound decision being made, which was not made in the ADC. Perhaps is the reason, I don't know, the reason why persons like Peter Obi had to leave, besides maybe every other reason, is that the party has now zoned the presidential ticket to the South. That is not even the kicker. The bigger kicker is that it has zoned it to the South for one term. How practicable is that? The office of the president is very enticing. It's perhaps arguably one of the things that led to the undoing of Jonathan, based on, quote unquote, the agreement they had about term.
Well, I think you are very right in describing it as very profound. So the word you use in describing the decision made by NDC to zone the presidency to the southern part of Nigeria explains it all. If something is profound, it means that it is good. One is that NDC was able to rise to the occasion by doing the needful. In politics, you must do what will make you succeed. You must be driven by a sense of balance, a sense of equity, something that will make people come to you. Like you pointed out, ADC was not able to do zoning, and zoning was a problem that cost the PDP the election in 2023. So it is surprising that ADC, with all the efforts we made and the strength it amassed, decided to make the same mistake again. NDC has risen to the occasion, and knowing that there is no way you can come and challenge the southern Nigeria in this election, where they are entitled to 2 terms in office, 8 years, because Buhari did 8 years in the last dispensation. When he shifted to the turn of the South, it became necessary that any right-thinking person should be able to take candidates from the southern part of Nigeria. That was the mistake that APC avoided, because at the 2023 convention, there were elements in the APC that were insisting that anybody from the north can run again and succeed Buhari. That was why some of them contested at the convention to become the presidential candidate of the APC. But there were some right-thinking people like El-Rufai, Governor Nasir El-Rufai, who insisted, along with some people, that they should go south for the sake of equity and the need to preserve the national unity. Those reasons prevailed, and that's how Tinubu became the candidate, and they went ahead to become the president. Now, the South has 4 years unfinished of the 8-year term they're entitled to. And Mr. Peter Obi and other people who are minded by the need to preserve the balance went for 4 years to complete the tenure of the South, that will make it 8 years. So Mr. Obi, for example, started long time to say that he will spend only 4 years and give way. He knows that he cannot do a second term because Tinubu is already doing 4 years for the South. So that sense of reason prevailed in the NDC. The NDC decided to zone the presidency to the South for the remaining 4 years of the 8-year term due to the southern Nigeria before power gets back to the South. So if you looked at the motion that was moved yesterday, the motion was that this presidency is zoned to the South for 4 years. And in 2031, when the South would have completed the 4 years of the 8 years due to the South, automatically the presidency should revert to the North. That is the way to preserve national unity. You cannot pretend that people are very sensitive to these things, and that's what happened yesterday. So NDC was strategic enough to reason in that direction. And when the motion was moved, all the delegates to the convention applauded it and voted overwhelmingly with yes. And those against were zero. There were no people against
Senator,
that.
Let me comment. I think you've explained yourself well. Now, the point I'm making about this is how practical it is. So let's just assume that Peter Obi will be the candidate of the NDC. Let's just assume, because of the way things stand right now. Does the party trust him to be able to abide by this agreement if peradventure wins tomorrow? Because history has shown since 1999 that even President Obasanjo was even accused of trying to secure a third term. He has denied that. Goodluck Jonathan, as you know, he was accused of failing on the agreement because he was supposed to complete the term of Yaradua and then run for a one term and then give power back to the North, as it were. And we've seen Muhammadu Buhari, God rest his soul, also did a term. President Bola Tinubu is also running for a second term. So is it really, does the party trust Peter Obi if he wins to stand or abide by this agreement? Is it a written agreement, verbal agreement? What kind of agreement is this?
Well, it is part of the promise of a new Nigeria. What we are doing with NDC and with Mr. Peter Obi you have referred to is something that will be novel, something that has not happened in Nigeria before, where people do not want to quit office. Once you give them the baton, they run away with the baton, unless you force them out. Mr. Obi was very conscious of the need to preserve national unity. And he recognizes that for him to succeed, he must not eat into the tenure of the North. So he confined himself ab initio to the 4 years available to southern Nigeria. As to whether people are honorable or not, it's only a character like Mr. Peter Obi who can do that, because he has always told you what he can do. And for those who are doubting him, I can tell you I have known Peter Obi for, in fact, I have been his longest political associate since 2001. He started his politics with me, and I can tell you that once he has said it, that is the way it's going to be. If he goes into office, assuming Nigerians vote for him and he wins, Peter Obi will leave after 4 years. In fact, in my discussions with him, he has already started making his plans on how to deliver his promises to Nigerians within 4 years. Don't forget that somebody like a nobleman like Nelson Mandela did only 4 years in South Africa, and he left. So if Peter Obi leaves after 4 years, he will not be the first person. Mandela did it, and he left, even when the ovation was still very high for him. So I think it's for us to begin to realize our makeup in this country, knowing that Nigeria is a very diverse country where you must respect the rights and interests of other people. Yes, the issue of 4 years is very critical, that anybody who wants to preserve national unity from the South cannot think about staying beyond 4 years, because Tinubu would have done 4 years by 2027. And in order to preserve national unity, that 4 years will be the last chance for the South in this very dispensation. For those who do not pay attention to this and ignore it, they will see when we begin the campaigns that they will not stand. They cannot stand.
All right, distinguished. My apologies.
You must be fair to others.
Let's talk about what is practical. Let's point out three of Nigeria's problems. Let me give you 3 problems. Nigeria has been having issues around insecurity for since the Goodluck Jonathan. He's been there for a long time, but, you know, it took another shape altogether, maybe under Goodluck Jonathan. As Muhammadu Buhari could not resolve it, but President Tinubu has not been able to solve the insecurity problems. The economy is still, you know, where it is. Literally, people are suffering and struggling. Hardship is very high, although the macroeconomic data looks good. But trickling down is a major problem. Power has been almost unresolvable, even since the era of the PDP as government. So what can you really do in 4 years?
A lot can be done in 4 years. One is to reposition the country and lay a foundation on how we shall coexist and live together as a people, having faith in the country as one indivisible country. If a leader comes and takes Nigeria as his entire constituency and begins to take actions that people will trust him with, and begin to take everybody as a brother or as a sister, making sure that what is available goes round to everybody. You change the national psyche and the way people perceive their leaders. A leader that has come to unite everybody will be a leader that will achieve much. Within 4 years, even 2 years will be enough for you to put the party back on track. If you come into office and you begin to do things that will make everybody have a sense of belonging as a Nigerian, as somebody who can be fair to all, you will see that turning the country together will be a major achievement in the first 1 year. Look at Rwanda, where Paul Kagame is doing wonders. He came into that country very divided between the Hutsis and Tutsis. They were massacred, genocide, and everything. And when he came in, he banned anybody saying that I'm a Tutsi, or I'm a Hutsi, I'm a tribal person. You must say I'm a Rwandan. You can't say you belong to any of these tribes. And he was able to unite Rwandan people. That's why the country is ascending now, doing very well. I was in Kigali, and I was busy trying to ask a girl in the hotel reception, are you a Tutsi? She didn't reply me. I said, are you a Hutu? She didn't reply me. Then her colleague said, we are Rwandans. That is the way to build national unity. So in Nigeria today, somebody who can come out and with the blast of the whistle say, you cannot say, I'm Igbo, I'm Yoruba, I'm Hausa, I'm Shekiri, I'm this and that, I'm 200 and something ethnic nationalities in Nigeria.
As though you look
for you to govern, you need to have these 250 ethnic nationalities to trust you, that you have come to provide leadership to everybody, not for a section of the people. So if somebody
Senator,
comes to that mindset, they will be able to deliver immediately, yes.
You've walked into literally almost like, look, you saw my notes. Now, Peter Obi, when people look at him from public perception that I've analyzed, they seem to say when it comes to prudential management of resources, he seems to be high up there. But Nigeria is a very complex state, complex country, a very divided country. And that complexity and that division is accentuated during election season. We see how we vote, we see how we see. So they are now saying, look, if he couldn't stay and build the Labour Party, if he couldn't stay and fight internal party politics and the internal democracy of the ADC, now he's gone to the NDC, where it looks like it's a free meal, it's a free pass for him. How can he run a complex country like Nigeria?
Well, the strength of Mr. Obi, I'm coming. The strength of Mr. Obi is in his frugal attitude, physical discipline. He's somebody who is not wasteful. I've lasted with him for 21 years in politics, and my relationship with Obi has never been determined by money, what he can give you. Because he will tell you, I'll use money, public money, for public good. It's not by dishing out money, sharing money to people that you become popular and then you deliver nothing when you get into office. One thing I can assure you is that Peter said he will not be part of a transactional politics where the amount of money you share to people will determine their support for you. Because if he spends his own money, he has money. Peter Obi is very wealthy. mind you. But he has said that he cannot be driven into transactional politics, because if he spends his money, if he gets into public office, he will start stealing public money to recover the money he has spent on you. So it's part of his strength. Those who are following him today are not following him because of money. Like I said to you, I've been with him for 25 years, since 2001. And money has never defined my relationship with him. Because I know I will not get it, even if I ask for it, unless there is a reason that is very compelling. And even if he wants to spend money, he will be very, very prudent in the use of money. So this is the type of leader Nigeria needs. Somebody who can, because Nigeria is blessed with a lot of money, a lot of resources.
All right,
what is our burn is our waste of our resources. So you need somebody who can husband money. So, wait now, somebody who can husband money and use it to deliver to the needs of the people. Not somebody who is generous and in the end he will mess up everybody. All right, it's not a weakness. It's not a weakness. Because his attitude is being appreciated by a lot of people in Nigeria today.
The reason I'm taking this part is because...
they give shishi.
The reason I'm taking this part is because the assumption that he may end up being the presidential candidate of the party, because Kwankwaso has also signed up to the fact that he should go to the South. But let's talk about, which is one of the things the political class has denied us the opportunity to be able to interrogate yet. So we hope that after 30th and as we go into the election season proper, we'll get to interrogate ideological differences. So, because sometimes you really can't say what APC and PDP and all of this party ideologically differ. Because even with the PDP, even with the APC, for instance, Muhammadu Buhari, God rest his soul, in terms of his economic ideology, was more welfareist, maybe Section 16 of the Constitution. But President Bola Tinubu is more of capitalist, more of a liberal and neoliberal policy of the government. So both of them are in the same party, but one is going this way in terms of economic ideology, the other one is going this way. So it makes me feel like the party doesn't have exactly what it can hold on to, just like you have the Democrats and Republicans, you know what to expect, no matter who is in charge. What does the NDC stand for in terms of economic ideology?
Well, you will see from the engagements of Mr. Obi already, you can see that he's a welfarist ideology person. Look at the way he's going to see people in IDP camps, going to schools to donate to children, and he's showing a lot of empathy to move the people, out of their extreme poverty. That is what he's going to do with government resources. So it's not about promising everybody a good Nigeria, and you don't do impact assessment of your policies on the citizens of the country. If you look at Nigeria the way it is now, the citizens are bearing so much brunt of the policies of the present APC government. Nothing is affordable. Petrol is 1,400 naira a liter. Diesel is 2,100. And once this thing happens this way, it creates multiplier effect in inflation. And there's no money. The money is not in the hands of the ordinary people. That is why hardship is so much. Every passing month or weeks, Nigeria people in this country. So somebody who has no empathy cannot be guaranteeing the welfare of the citizens. Because the Constitution says the welfare of the Nigerian citizens shall be a primary purpose of government. And if people are dying and they are not doing anything to rescue them, you are failing in that duty, So you must be driven with that welfare of the citizens in your policies. And if you put any policy, then you must ensure that you do impact assessment of your policies on the citizens. We are talking about microeconomics, where Nigeria is doing very well. How is Nigeria doing very well with the crippling debts we have? You tell us that our foreign reserve is about $60 billion or 40 or 50, whatever number. And we're owing 160 trillion naira. So that has wiped away your reserve. So what is important is to bring the country back to production. We have to start reviving our industries and promoting people to go back to farm, agricultural production, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
so the policy of NDC, policy of NDC, if you listen to the national leader of NDC, NDC, Siriake Dixon, you hear where he's talking about the welfare of the citizens. Welfare of the citizens. He's not capitalist in nature. And he's the founder of this party. He's somebody, I work with him in the Senate, in the 10th Senate, and I know his stand on a lot of issues. That is even why we settled. That's even why we settled on NDC.
Let's come clean.
At the place we landed.
My apologies. As we begin to wind down, let's come clean.
Yeah.
Now,
how dirty are we?
Not that. We're not dirty. I just wanted clarity.
Okay.
The APC and President Tinubu will tell you that it wasn't because it's the nicest thing to have done for them to have removed subsidy because they just want to remove subsidy. It's because when they looked at the books and the numbers, subsidy may be good, but the country could not fund it. So if you are welfarist, the pain will be less on the citizen, but there will be fiscal pressure. But if you are not welfarist, just like the president is doing now, the pain would be on the citizens, and there will be less pressure on the fiscal demand of the country. So are you saying in clear terms that, for instance, if the NDC wins an election as a welfarist leaning party, if you will, you may be thinking of subsidy?
Even when I was in the...
as a party.
8th Senate. I'm coming. I'm a politician. I'm a member of NDC. So I want to tell you why this argument does not fly. Subsidy has been removed. Yes. It was a good thing to remove subsidy because of the corruption in the subsidy regime in Nigeria. People were stealing a lot of money belonging to citizens of this country. They make frivolous claims of subsidy claims, and they're stealing all the money. So it became a burden on government. So now, having removed subsidy, my question is, if you remove subsidy, it means that you have savings. The money you pay on subsidy will be available to government to channel into other areas. What has improved since then? When the subsidy was removed, the petroleum prices, product prices went up astronomically to where we are. What has happened by government to cushion this effect? Have they done anything to revive our ailing refineries? Because if you are removing subsidy without making adequate plans from where you can source these products, you have not helped the country. That is why, even not for Dangote refinery, Nigeria would have been grounded by now. So if you have a plan to remove subsidy, there must be a composite plan to put refineries in place. Either you revive the old ones or you build new ones. For the past 6 years, I've been talking about building new refineries, even before Dangote started his own. I said, you cannot solve this problem that is plaguing Nigeria if you don't have a way of making this product available. If you can't produce, you cannot regulate, you cannot control prices. So you must be able to find refineries, no matter the scale of the refineries, proliferate them around the country, because we have the crude.
We're totally out of time.
So it's just telling us that the president was bold in removing subsidy. For what gain?
All right,
is that good for the Nigerians today? For what gain?
We will probe.
What's the level of our debts today?
We'll have time. Yes, we'll have time to talk about the manifesto
when we cross this phase,
totally out of time.
You are the one that provoked it. You are asking me what we are going to do. What is our manifesto?
No. Yes, we've just started. Forgive me.
We are thinking.
Forgive me.
We are looking at what to do.
Yes, so that we can hear the other side.
Good for Nigerians.
Senator Victor Umeh, member of the NDC, representing Anambra Central in the 10th Senate. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, another senator, this time, former senator, I should say, but they say they are never former, will be joining me. He's a member. He used to be a member of the PDP, and then the PRP, and then the PDP, and then the APC, I think. Now APC. Oh boy. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let me bring in my guest, distinguished Senator Shehu Sani. You represented the good people of Kaduna Central. Distinguished, thank you for coming and for your patience.
Thank you for having me.
Will I be right to say congratulations in advance? I know screening has happened, but I don't know whether anyone has been cleared. But I see that you're heading back to the Senate.
By the God's grace.
Absolutely. So I said that to say that just in case, or well, you're not from South, because it looks like if the APC wins the election in 2027 and President Bola Tinubu runs with Kashim Shettima, the Senate presidency may actually stay in the South and maybe in the South. And there's so much politics going on. But it looks like for those of you who, if you eventually make it to the Senate, aspiring to be Senate president, you've been blocked. How do you make of that particular standing rule of the Senate?
Well, first of all, when you talk about the Senate, there are internal rules and regulations that governs the conduct of activities within that realm. And secondly, when you're talking of zoning of principal officers, it's something that happens both within and outside of the Senate. It's the party that decides, the majority seat, the party with the majority in the Senate that decides which zone, which part of the country should be allocated a certain positions. And this is normal. This has been the convention right from 1999 to date. So there is nothing wrong with that. It's about ensuring balance and equity and full representation within the pillars of power around the National Assembly and beyond when you talk of the politics outside of the National Assembly. So it's a normal thing. There is nothing wrong with that.
So my question will be, was it a fair standing order amendment by the Senate led by Senator Godswill Akpabio to block out anyone who may have been a senator in the past who is returning, no matter how many years you served in the Senate, even if you've been there for 16 years and you left and you're coming back, if you're not a member of the 10th Senate and, for instance, is zoned to your area, your geopolitical zone, you can't be because of the new rules. So Senator Akpabio, for instance, he came in without a day legislative experience. He became a minority leader after he became governor, and then he left to become a minister. In his second term, he became a Senate president. So he's a beneficiary of the system, and people are now accusing him of blocking the system of which he benefited from. So that's my question, not necessarily the zoning itself.
Well, when people occupy positions in government and they attempt to tamper with the extant laws to the point that they do it to favor themselves, they should be very careful because it can turn against them not very far away from the very time they decide to do that. And the laws, the internal laws they are trying to tamper with, I think is for a certain purpose, a presumption or a prediction that there is likelihood of someone coming to the Senate that will take over a certain position. And I don't think that is right. And if you are a senator and a ranking senator, you should be free to aspire to any of the principal offices. But naturally, if you are from the majority party, you can take over the position of the president of the Senate, the deputy president of the Senate, the majority leader, and the chief whip. And if you are from the minority party, you can take on the leader of the minority, the deputy chief whip, and other positions that are allocated to you as a minority. But trying to juggle the laws in order to serve a certain premeditated end is just not right as far as I'm concerned. There are senators and there are ranking senators, and ranking senators are given that exclusive respect to vie for some certain positions, even though the laws has made it clear that you must at least be a ranking senator before you become chairman of committees. But that has not been well observed for a number of sessions. But when you talk about principal offices like the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the Majority Leader. These are issues that should not be tampered with as it is in the Senate today. If not, it's going to generate a lot of crisis, and that is not good for the stability and peace within the parliament, as far as I'm concerned.
Distinguished, arguably the APC is the most stable party in Nigeria right now, but it looks like with this election coming and all the conversation around consensus, there may be a brewing crisis, but you may help correct me if I'm wrong. And it looks like the crisis is between what I call political aborigines and the settlers. Whether it's governors coming in and people defecting, like they've been defecting in the National Assembly and state houses of assembly. For instance, in River States, you know, what has been playing out. We can go to a couple of other states in terms of maybe senatorial seats. Is the APC looking at what happened to the PDP and making sure they learn the lesson, that they don't repeat that mistake? Because history has shown us that since 1999, sometimes it's not necessarily the strength of the opposition that knocks out the ruling party. It is implosion of the ruling party that knocks out the ruling party.
Well, it has been said, it's either you learn from history or you are condemned to repeat it. So when mistakes happen, you learn from those fault lines that led to the collapse of the party, that's the PDP. And it is for the APC to know that what happened to the PDP in 2015 should be carefully studied and lessons learned to prevent it happening. Because as people migrate to the ruling party, there is bound to be also the migration of the problems they ran away with from the other parties. And it is for the ruling party to study this carefully and ensure that they avoid it. Specifically, when people are decamping to the ruling party, they have to be under the laws that as you are coming in, there should be respect for those who have been there, and as you are treated also as equal, and you shouldn't also transfer the problems you had with from the other side to this party. It's very important. And if you look at what brought down the PDP, it has to do with their inability to manage their internal crisis. And also it has to do with their inability to accept the fact that every member of the party is important and that his eviction out of the party or his divorce from the party can lead to a collapse of a certain structure which can affect the general structure of the party. So this is for the ruling party to learn from those mistakes and make corrections. So you are right that there should be lessons learned to avoid such a catastrophic failure or a gradual dissolution of the strength which the party has at presently.
Within the time we have, I'll go to national issues, but I will not be fair to you, Senator, because I know that you're one of those that, even though you're a politician and you're a party man, you try to have a fair mind in analyzing issues. But let me talk about your ambition. Why going back to the Senate?
Well, because the laws allow it for you to go back to the Senate. There is no tenure in going to the National Assembly, whether it's the Senate or the House of Reps. And when your people felt that you have a lot to deliver and you have a duty and responsibility to ensure they are well represented there, you should be able to answer that. And the very fact that Nigerians are more concerned of who become the president of the country. They don't usually take seriousness on who becomes their lawmakers, whether at the state level or at the federal level. And it's very important. If you have a vibrant Senate, a potent Senate, if you have one that respects his integrity, his independence, and the sanctity of his identity, you will have good governance in the country. But for the fact that people only interested in who become the president, I don't care who become the senators or members of House of Reps, or they are members of State House of Assembly, always lead us to a lot of trouble as a country. So a quality National Assembly, a qualitative parliament is as important as the stability of the country and also the prosperity of the nation.
All right, distinguished, my last question. When Ahmed Lawan was the Senate president, people said the Senate was a big rubber stamp on the under Muhammadu Buhari. Now they say this is even the worst of the rubber stamp. But by your own assessment, has the Senate leadership, as the Senate has currently constituted, led by Senator Godswill Akpabio, have they spoken well for the Nigerian people?
Well, if you compare the Akpabio and Lawan Senate, I can tell you that the Akpabio Senate is at a higher realm than that of the Lawan. And our own, that of Saraki, has set a record and history which no other National Assembly session has been able to do since 1999. And all has to do with the integrity, the quality, and the principles and conscience of the people who are heading in. For example, in our time, we have Saraki and Dogara, all that have been elected by senators without much interference from the executive. And now we had that independence to perform our duty. So, but when you compare that of Lawan and that of Akpabio, I think this is a bit better than the other one that was there. But as time goes on, I believe that the next one will far be better, because I've seen the caliber of people who are aspiring for that office for now.
All right. Distinguished, it's always a pleasure. We'll keep bringing you on the program. And I wish you the very best. Distinguished Senator Shehu Sani, running for Kaduna Central under the platform of the All Progressives Congress. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Good night.